Hey guys, my name is Cool and John. I'm just gonna go over tutorial. This tutorial will be covering some of Blender's basic particle emitter engine. There were some past tutorials I've been kind of missing since I was sick, and as well as since a lot of confusion has been happening with the club. But I'm hoping by the end of starting of this month, we might continue a much more linear, smooth path. So what we have right now is something very default, and we have our default scene. Right now we're using Blender 2.64, that's what I'm using right here. 2.63 or any type of Blender 2.5 will work as well. No worries on that. So we start off with just a simple primitive shape. I would go with pressing Shift A, add your shape under mesh. We'll go with something like a cylinder. We're going to use this middle mouse button if you've been missing, or if you just tuned in. Middle mouse buttons to orbit, zoom in and out, and to pan, shift, and middle mouse button. But that's pretty much how to navigate within the 3D space. This is your 3D viewer, and all the keys will be shown down here. So just in case you're confused, you can go back and just kind of listen or kind of play it again to figure out what's happening. So on our object properties right here, we're just going to go under particles. We're going to create a new particle system. For this object, we have to make sure the object's selected first for it to give us this option. Once the object isn't selected, for say here, and let's say it's not selected, let's say I get rid of it completely, you won't have these options. You notice you only have options regarding the actual 3D scene. Once you incorporate that object and you select that object, more properties become valid for you. Alright, so under the particle emitter, we're going to hit the plus. We're going to create a particle system. This just gives us basic, statuses for say the start and stop, how long it'll render for, and its stop time when it will absolutely stop its rendering. I would put this 250. Say vert because it emits from that point alone. You can go down here to the cache, how much is per frame memory would take for you to render out everything. You can click quick cache to make it a little bit faster. You can just decrease it down to the lowest bit. You can hit Alt A, and we have vertices already going by animating already, so we have a kind of nitty-gritty rough idea on how it might look. We can go up here, we can increase the vertice count under number, so maybe something 10 times more. Maybe say 10, 1, 2, 3, 10,000. And I give it a little second or so to load, and we have more vertices incorporated. We have gravity. We can scroll down even lower, and we can just go under with the physics. We can play around with the velocity, play around with the rotation. You can play around with the physics as well. You can play around with this rendering option. You can make it a actual object or a parent of the object, and you can just figure out what you really like. So what do you like? You can just do maybe I would say lines if you want. Whatever you feel comfortable with. And play around with these. You can do dots. Usually you go none. If you're doing like snow particles, you do halos. You're doing snow particles. If you want for say this to kind of fall apart, like about to destroy, select this right here. Let's go, add modifier. We can add a subsurface modifier, or press Shift 3, and this kind of just adds a nice evened out group of vertices for us, adding more details to our geometry or 3D shape, allowing us to manipulate it much more easier. So there's no problems, with it. You can create whatever you want. It's really fun. It's really interesting. and just have fun with it. You can animate the cube, and for say when you animate the cube, the particle effects will actually follow through and map out how everything is going to react. So if you go on our animation panel, let's kind of go back to the starting bit of the frames. I'm just going to do something willy-nilly here, since time is against us. And then we can just kind of bring that up. You should kind of take into consideration the cube. Go wireframe mode, make it a little quicker, and then set. It's really hard when you bake everything. Ooh, phone fell. Alright, so usually my computer runs faster than this, but you can freely take and remove it and just do your own type of animation first, before actually, think something like that, and then something. Just kind of fool around with it. Let's go here, make it 120, make it even. Longer than that, actually. Put down 10 actually. And then you end it all out here. Shift step. Selected to cruiser. There you go. And you just snap the selected object to this cruiser point right here. And once we have that, we would just insert location. Okay. And we have a little bit of animation. We can have the particle system. And we can do the same thing again if I want to. Just put a little bit less verts. Just play around with it, and we can see kind of follows. Like you see, it moves around, and the vertices kind of trail behind it. Like the time 250. So we see it's trailing. 1, 2, 3. We see the more vertices we add, or you do as well, and you can just really play around with this. You can really have fun with it. You can add maybe another, say, a force field, and you can use I would say vortex. Select the actual geometry back to its default position. Select the vortex. Select it and control and just parent it to the object. So wherever the shape goes, the vortex will follow. And the cool thing you can do, you can just go to the vortex properties, and once vortex selected, you go to the bouncing ball, and you can just kind of go all out with some of the options. So we are here, and then let's go here. You can just insert these keyframes by option clicking it. It's just great stuff. Just really nuke it, just play around with it. I just can make it go really high. You can go to 25 on the strength and insert the keyframe here. And then you can see how that affects your 5. You can see how that affects your particles, and you can drop it down to 5. You can keep the flow, you can fraction that to 0.25 even, and you just insert the keyframes and then you can just go to the final thing here and just drop it to 0, and you just can see how this is affected in wireframe mode. You just get a very general idea on how it works. So we see it's very small and it's very large. We see how the particles are influenced by this, and we bring up the flow when we're around here. Now the particles kind of dim in and they kind of weaken, they start to flow normally until they just start to go back to their original behavior. And you see all the physics is just done on the fly like that. So you can be really creative with rigid dynamics and whatever else you have in mind. So this is just a brief tutorial on how to tweak around and play around with the values and play around with just the particle system and forces. You can play around with even more force and just get a better feel of it. So learning's about getting your hands dirty and just kind of getting your own understanding, because I can show you, but you have to understand it yourself for you to get that nice crisp understanding. But that pretty much sums up the tutorial. I hope this helped you. Any comments, please add me on Facebook, talk to me. I'm available a lot of the times. Now I have a new phone, so I can, if you have a question, just bada bing bada boom, or MSG me. I'm not a bad person. I'm not gonna bite people's head off. If you're curious about the video software I'm using for my tutorials, I'm called Butte Editor. You can find it on nch.com. Check it out. Hope you guys enjoy this tutorial, and God bless.